We are we? I'm not quite sure if we're ready or not, to be fair, but bear me 1 second. I'll get this sorted. And welcome along then to the stream then. I will just give me 2 seconds. I will, there we go. Now we're sorted. Cracking stuff indeed. Right, then, we are ready to get going for round 3 then of Bronze Season 9, then here in Suzuka, of all places. And There we go then. Right, we can crack on for the qualifying, of course, then 16.5 minutes left of the qualifying session. A bit of an overcast start to the qualifying here as we get ourselves through the first few rounds of the season. Then, of course, 16 rounds this season. We're almost at the quarterway point already, then almost 25% of the way through then after sorry, goodness me, I can't do my mouse correctly, can I? We're only 2 rounds in, technically, but this is the 3rd round, so I'm already getting myself confused. But Real Ashton hopefully is not confused, and he is on track then in the Red Bull. Then first man, he's not the first man actually out on circuit. Jiller is first man out on circuit, then going through towards 130R. Then this is the fastest point of the lap as well. Then I just need to try and get my stream sorted as well, because I have done a problem. I've got all sorts of issues tonight then, but thankfully we're all sorted. Good stuff. Right then, Jinner can start us off on the lap then. Unfortunately missing the first round of the season in Australia then, and not having the best race in China last week. Then can he turn his form around here tonight then in Suzuka? Then we'll see what the McLaren driver can do then, because he's going to be the first man on track then, or the first man who's set a valid lap then, that is, if he can keep it within track limits. But unfortunately I've cursed him already, so never mind. Sorry, Jeanette, I've already got one. Let's see how many else we can get in this qualifying session then. Real Ashton then is heading through the first couple of corners then, and making sure he doesn't go too wide then at turn 2, and very good stuff indeed. Then heading into the S's section of sector 2, sector 1, goodness me, I haven't got that far, and we're heading through then into sector 2 momentarily then, but Real Ash then negotiating through Dunlop and heading towards the first and second Degners and into sector 2 now. And let's see what Real Ash can do. He's going to be the ballpark, he's going to be the stopgap then to set ourselves underway then in this qualifying session, to show where the marker is then to begin this qualifying here. 14.5 minutes left to go then. Even all from Jinner as well then. Not Mark Smith, sorry, that is Mark Smith, it's Jinner, the same person. They have said evening all, and Sirius Mushroom has said evening all as well. Then hopefully Mushroom has recovered then, of course, hopefully not, hopefully he hasn't recovered then, to be fair, because Mushroom then racing with COVID last week then in China has got himself a race win, didn't he, in that epic event then a week ago then for bronze. Round 2 that was then, but now into round 3 then. But let's see if Mushroom can keep up the form then in the Aston Martin then. Real Ashton has gone through into 130R, then of course purple in sector 2 as well, then heading into the Casio triangle now then to finish off the first qualifying lap then of the session here tonight then. Yes, it is the first session, the first qualifying, yes it is the first lap then, and Real Ashton a 30.296 sets ourselves underway here in Suzuka then. Good stuff indeed then. Currently pole position then for Real Ashton. I'm sure he'd be very happy if there's a red flag right now then, but unfortunately I don't think that's going to be the case then. Casey has done a 30.8 then, where's his teammate of Ducanco heading into the triangle as well then. So Casey P2 then on the front row of the grid then with Real Ashton. As it stands, only two drivers have set a time so far, but here comes Ducanco, and let's see what it's going to be. It's pole position for Ducanco then. Ferrari looking very fast indeed here in Suzuka then, for 29.5 then for the Ferrari then. Hungry Styles though, Hungry Styles then with a 29.1 then puts himself on pole position, and that Williams is on a lap then. Hungry Styles is going to get in the way of that Williams if he doesn't get himself out of the way now. Oh my goodness me. Yes, that is definitely what you would call blocking in qualifying then. So Styles, unfortunately, has done a very good lap then indeed, but I think will be under investigation from the stewards before we've even got going here, really. Dynamo Dan then heading through the Dunlop curve, I should say, then Umabro then heading around Spoon. So we'll come back to Dynamo Dan, then we'll head on board with the Mercedes of Umabro heading towards the 130R then. Almost caught Styles in a bit of a tricky position there, let's just say that. So unfortunately, yes. Anyway, heading through the triangle then for the Mercedes then of Umabro, then down to the line then for the first time then in this qualifying session for Umabro, up to P3 with a 30.156 and good stuff indeed for Mercedes then. Fantastic. Gaming Infinity is in the Alpine tonight. Unfortunately hasn't validated his first run here in qualifying, but he's got time, plenty of time to go back round and start off again then in this next part of the session then as well. Then Corey, I think, had a bit of a problem there with Styles getting in his way then, but here comes Dynamo Dan, who's not had anybody in his way, doesn't look like, for this part of the lap then, at least. Then heading into the final few corners then to finish off his first qualifying lap of the evening, and let's see where Dynamo Dan can go, I should say. Then he's been battling for podiums, he's been battling for points, and he's got a 28.5 then for the Red Bull, then putting himself on pole position by 0.6 of a second. Fantastic stuff indeed Very good stuff indeed. Then we've got, yes, I think Corey's back in the pit lane, so unfortunately I don't think he had enough fuel to go around again then, and that was being paid by Hungry Styles then, who put in a bit of a precarious position, let's just say that. But yeah, there we go. But hopefully, well, there's still time, there's plenty of time then for Corey to get himself back out on track then, and back out on a lap as well then, heading through into the spoon curve for Mabra. Then we're just having a few drivers then finish off their out laps, then Rocket Lee being one of them in the Williams, but I think we've got a few McLarens ahead of us then. McLaren of Jenner then back out on track then after invalidating his first run, heading into turns 1 and 2 then. This time, can he get himself through turn 2 then without going over that track limit? Yes, he can. Very good stuff indeed. Now into the S's section then for the McLaren then. Can he get himself through here comfortably? And then of course this is the most treacherous part of the circuit, I think then. To be fair, the well, that and the second first and second Degners are pretty pretty terrifying in the first half of the lap. Then everything else is pretty much smooth sailing. Well, I have to say that, but I wouldn't say that myself. But yes, there we go. It's just smooth sailing for those who can drive. And it looks like so far Bronze are doing a good job then as we head into the hairpin now for Jenner. Then let's see what the McLaren driver can do. Can he turn his season around then after missing the first run and a difficult race then in Shanghai last week? Then yellow flags fluttering. I think it's for a Haas then starting off their lap very soon I should say. Then I think Jenner's got a Chinese helmet then on it. Well, it looks very Chinese flag design like. It's got a bit of yellow, a bit of red then, but unfortunately we were in China last week then. We're now in Japan, which has a bit of a different flag design, so there we go. But there we go. Heading into 130R then for Jenner. Then can he get himself a first valid lap time on the board then? ERS like flashing away then, heading through 130R then into the Casio triangle we go then, late on the brakes then for Jenner then, and around that final part of the corner then into the start finish straight then, and let's see where Jenner's going to go then, up into P2 with a 28.9. Very good stuff indeed. Front row then for the McLaren then. Where is his teammate going to be then? Astra John. Oh, Astra John's back. Willie's had a problem then. Willie's retired. I think he's got qualifying ban then for no footage. Then Astra John P8. Then we've got Gaming Infinity up into P5. Then we've got Rocket Lee rocketing up into the front row of the grid then. And he has got himself onto the front row alongside Dynamo Dan as it stands then P2 for the Williams driver then, who's done a very good job then in Australia and in China as well then. So looking very good indeed. I think he's third in the driver's standings at the moment then for Rocket Lee. The Junior then P3. Dan up into P4 then. The Alpine man then into the second row of the grid, I should say. 29.0 for him then. Where is his teammate Gaming Infinity then on his first outing in ALR then has got himself up into P6 then with a 29.4. Looking pretty good then for Alpine as it stands as well then. Mr. Elite then heading down towards, or heading up towards 130R. Then he's not used much ERS then on this lap as he comes through into the Casio triangle now. Then we'll come back to that then. Goodness me, then there's one man who's a treacher on the track, and it's definitely this racing bull of Ginger Rage then heading through into the final part of the lap then. Across the line for Ginger Rage at 29.7, puts himself P8 then for the time being then in the racing bull. Looking pretty good indeed then for the well, I'm not sure he's not a fan of the V carb, is he, unfortunately, but he's got a nice pink helmet on, so I'm sure that'll cheer him up then. So good stuff indeed then for Ginger Rage. Unfortunately, having his work antics last week then, wasn't able to take to the track then in Shanghai, but hopefully this time I should say then in Suzuka. Goodness me, there's two in the S's around this calendar. Around Suzuka then we will see Ginger Rage shine as well then. And Serious Mushroom then heading through the spoon curve then for the Aston Martin driver then, out in qualifying in his Serious Mushroom then. My goodness me, there must be something definitely wrong with him. And he is heading up towards the 130R corner then to finish off Sector 2 then. Purple in Sector 2 as well then. That is looking pretty impressive then as we go through 130R then flying through. There's a Williams getting out of the way. I think hopefully they got themselves out of the way quickly enough. And Serious Mushroom then heading through the triangle now then down the hill then toward it's P5 for the time being. 29.1 for Mushroom. Yo says Formula Motors and Chinese New Year, says Dynamo Dan. Then I think he's that's why Jenner's got his helmet sorted that way, because he is supporting the Chinese New Year then, which is fantastic stuff indeed. Ginger Age down to P9 for the time being. Then we're coming back to the pit lane. Then Casey's improved to P10, a 30.44 for Casey. Then puts himself into the top half as it stands. Then Jake the Slayer then is on track as well. Then in the other racing bull, I think it's the first time this season we've got both the racing bulls, or both full-time racing bulls racing together then. So let's see how they can fare then in this Grand Prix. Corey back out on circuit. Smithy then on his lap then on his lap, I should say, for the first time in this session then, as is IRS then heading up the hill towards 130R. Where is Smithy? Then here comes Smithy then round the final corner then for the Kick Sauber team. It's P3 at 28. 28.8, sorry, as Corey then does a 28.8 as well, then puts himself P4. So Williams looking very strong here, P2 and P4 respectively at the moment. But a very good stuff indeed then. Yellow flags fluttering. I mean, the car's coming back to the pit lane. IRS has crossed the line. Unfortunately, he's at P16 as it stands then with a 30.6 then. He needs to try and find a couple of 10 cents. Jake the Slayer has had an issue somewhere because he's slowed down then. Rebel then just getting out of the way. But unfortunately for Jake the Slayer, then he's not on a very quick lap time at the moment. Then we'll come back to him then. Here comes Luke into the Casio Triangle. Then, of course, the first round's winner then as well is Luke. Then, of course, he got a podium in China after all the issues and penalties have been sorted out. Well, that race, Red Bull then trying to get out of the way. Luke then up into P9, then 29.3 then for Luke. Then not sure that's where he wants to be then, but he is there nonetheless for the start of this, well, his first lap, I should say, in qualifying. Of course, there is still time for Luke to improve on that time as well. Then Casey back into the pit lane. Real Ashton starting off a lap, then heading through the first couple of corners. Then we'll come back to Real Ashton as well. Then Jake the Slayer also starting a lap, then heading up the hill towards Dunlop, then and into sector 2. Then Degner 1 and 2 then for the Racing Bull, and flying through there very nicely indeed. Then almost 2 tenths up on his previous time then. But of course, he lost a lot of time then in sector 3, it looks like then, because he's done a 43.4. Sorry, goodness me, I can't see me 4s and my 0s tonight. There we go then. Happy New Year, says Ginger Raisin. Happy New Year to yourself, sir, as well. Then currently P12 then for Ginger Raisin. I'm not quite sure if he's happy about that or not, but I'm sure he will try and minus that. Minus the 11 places that are ahead of him, and get himself a race win here tonight then in Suzuka. Fantastic stuff indeed. Yellow flags fluttering then for the Haas pair again. I think Hungry Styles needs to make sure he doesn't get in the way of his teammate as well there, because Hungry Styles has been in the wars already in this qualifying session. 5 minutes left then here in Suzuka then to set the grid then for 27 laps of action then that are coming up in just a few moments time. Here comes Jake the Slayer then. Has he found enough time? Then goodness me, that car is flighty over the curbs then into the Casio Triangle, then down the hill towards the start finish line. It's going to be an improvement for sure, but where is he going to put him then? 29.9 puts himself P13 right behind his teammate of Ginger Raisin. So Racing Bull racing very closely indeed then in this qualifying. Real Ashton has abandoned his lap time, coming back into the pit lane then for the Red Bull team. Unfortunately then for Real Ashton, and Astrodron is back out on circuit, heading through sector 1. We'll come back to him. Mr. Elite heading down the hill to finish off his first lap of qualifying. P11 then for the Haas driver, of Mr. Elite then, and Hungry Styles then starting off a lap then heading towards the first couple of turns. Hopefully Mr. Elite is aware that his teammate is on a flying lap right behind him as well. Dan then currently P6 then. We've just had Gaming Infinity starting off a lap then heading down towards the first couple of corners as well. Then into the pits comes the McLaren of Astra John, I believe, as we see a few more drivers then getting themselves back into the pit lane to ready themselves up for the final time in qualifying, the final run in qualifying, I should say then. Here comes Styles then over the hill then into sector 2 then. Let's see what his time is going to be doing in sector 2. He's almost a 10.5 up then on his first sector. That is pretty good stuff indeed then. That would put him into the top 6, I think it would be at the moment. Of course, there's still time for drivers to come out and improve as well then. Let's go bronze, says Beast. Of course, Beast did a good job then last night. I think he started from P19 in the Silver Grand Prix last night in Japan, as well. And he got himself onto the podium. Then Real Ashton has abandoned qualifying. He's done and dusted it. Unfortunately, I think he may be trying to save a set of tyres then for the race itself. Then onto the back straight. Then we've got a bit of a tow coming. Oh God, that's not going to work there. And Styles almost into the back of his teammate then. And yeah, so I'm not quite sure if there was some tactics there or not then. But he's gone purple in sector 2, and he's almost half a second up on his previous time. Then that will be putting him in the range of a front row position as it stands then for Styles. Then heading down the hill, then can he complete the lap then as we go across the line for Styles? Then where it's going to be is P2 then, and it's only 2 thousandths away from pole position then for Styles. Fantastic qualifying then, front row then for the Haas as it stands as well. Then brilliant from Styles as well. Then fantastic, very good stuff indeed. Then Gaming Infinity has finished the lap. Then it's P10 for the time being. Then he needs to make sure that car is kept under control, and he looks like he has done as well. Then good stuff indeed. But Gaming Infinity then on his first outing in bronze, I should say, and first outing in ALR, I think as well, is looking to get himself a set himself a sight, then set himself a sighter as well in his first Grand Prix, and get himself settled in as well. So good stuff indeed. I think that's it for qualifying for Styles then. Unfortunately, he's not going to have enough time to get himself back round and back in again then. But Styles then currently on the front row of the grid then is looking pretty good indeed as it stands as well then. And yeah, we'll come back to that then, because Rocket Lee might be trying to steal that P2 away, or might be stealing that P1 away if he can, from Dynamo Dan as well. Then heading up the Dunlop curve, then around the outside there's a very slow Alpine, I think that is, of Gaming Infinity. Hopefully he can make sure he gets himself out of the way then of those coming through then. But here comes, oh dear, Rocket Lee then a bit unsettled then through the second Degner into the hairpin we go now, and then for the Rocket. And let's see, can he find a tenth or so, or just over a tenth of a second then would be pole position for Rocket Lee. If he can find that improvement, then we'll stay on board with him as he go through towards the spoon curve then in the Williams. And let's see what he can do then in sector 2 then around this spoon curve, and then it's foot to the floor then towards 130R then. And Ginger Age has retired in the pit lane, I think, so he's going to be P13 at best, and unfortunately for Ginger Age in qualifying here. Let's see what he can do then in the race itself then. Of course, race coming up in just over a couple of minutes time now, as here comes Rocket Lee. Then he has found almost 4/10 of a second. That will put him on pole position here for Suzuka, for the Japanese Grand Prix, I should say. Goodness me, heading into the Casio Triangle. They just need to make sure he keeps this nice and tidy, and he gets himself a pole position here then, does the Williams driver. Then heading down the hill then towards the start finish line. Then what's it going to be for Rocket Lee? It's a 28.234, and 234 pole position then for Rocket Lee. Then fantastic stuff indeed, and looking very good indeed then for Rocket Lee. Then fantastic. Can Dynamo Dan answer back then? He's got Smithy all over the back of him as well. Then heading into the triangle. Then goodness me, that's not very well coordinated then from the Red Bull. Then heading down the hill, there's the kick but then he stays P4. I think he's improved by 0.2 of a second, though. He's almost in the range then of the top of the order then, but unfortunately for Smithy, I'm not quite sure if he was unsighted then by that Red Bull then starting off his lap or not then, but that is that. Then 9 seconds left of qualifying as Corey Brennan then flies through into the first and second Degners. Then of course his teammate, I think Rocket League, just getting out of the way as we go through. Then as Dan starts off a lap, then we've got Styles has finished. Then Styles is done and dusted in qualifying, P3 at best then for Styles. Mushroom is done and dusted in P8, then same for Mr. Elite in P11. He's back in the pit lane. Then Astrodron has stayed in the pit lane as well, P15 for him at best in this qualifying then. Good stuff. Right, where is the Ferrari then of no, it's not, it's Casey up to P13 then displaces the racing rules down the order a bit more, and Casey then up into P13. He's done and dusted in qualifying. Then into the pits comes Jenner, then Jenner P6 as it stands, and unfortunately not having a good lap then on his final attempt here in qualifying, I don't think. Corey Brennan then through 130R, then unfortunately not improving then in the first couple of sectors. Can he find some time then? Oh, he's I thought he had some wing damage there, but he's not. He's just the light on the front wing then for Williams, but unfortunately for Corey, I don't think he's going to be able to improve on his lap time unless he can find a mammoth final few seconds. And in the final sector, unfortunately, he stays P5. Where is, goodness me, we just had someone else jump up the order. Gaming Infinity up into P9 then on his first outing here. Where is the next Ferrari? Then DeCanco in the pit lane, unfortunately. He is done and dusted. Luke up into P5 then from P10. A good big jump then from the Kick Sauber. Then P4 and P5 for Kick Sauber as it stands as well. Then Real Ashton has done, he's done and dusted, is he? Yes, he is done and dusted. And Dynamo Dan has improved, but he stays P2. Rocket Lee, I think, is going to have pole position unless Dan can answer him into the Casio Triangle. Then goes the Alpine, and let's see. Oh, he's not using much ERS though, unfortunately. So for Dan, I think that might be qualifying done and dusted as well then. So I think that is it. Rocket Lee then pole position then, unless IRS can do something. Sorry, goodness me, I keep missing the last few drivers here as well. Then IRS then heading through, but again, I don't think he's looking to improve on that current lap time as well then. So Rocket Lee pole position then for the Japanese Grand Prix Bronze Season 9 Round 3. Then fantastic stuff indeed. We'll run through the full classification then of qualifying in just a jiffy then, but that is that then. A fantastic qualifying indeed, and well done then to all 20 drivers then who put on a shift. And unfortunately for Willie, then he had a qualifying ban, so he couldn't get himself out on track, but hopefully we'll see him bounce back in the Grand Prix itself. Panicked again, stuff quali, says Mushroom. Then unfortunately for Mushroom, then it's not gone his way in qualifying. P9 for Mushroom. Then we'll see what he can do then in the Grand Prix. I forgot my DRS on the last straight, then says Styles, and that might be why he is currently P3 then. But he's done a fantastic job in qualifying then so far. Then let's see what he can do then in the Grand Prix then. As we've got Formula Moon says we'll take that as well then. And Eb and Moller has said go on. Let's go Dan, I should say. Goodness me. Rocket Lee then pole position then on the front row with Dynamo Dan then for the Red Bull team. Hungry Styles then P3, then Smithy and Luke then in the Kick Sabbers, then P4 and P5, then Corey P6, Jinner in P7, Dan in P8, then Serious Mushroom P9, and Gaming Infinity on his first outing. It rounds off the top 10. Then Jake the Slayer P11, Mr. Elite P12, then DeCanco and his teammate of Casey P13 and 14, Ginger Age P15, Mabro P16, Astra John P17, IRS P18, Real Ashton P19, and Winnie with a qualifying ban there as well. Then we'll be back very shortly after a quick word from our lovely sponsors. Right, then we are about to get started then here in Suzuka once again then for the start of the Grand Prix. Anyway, it's a bit of an overcast start then. It did seem to get a bit lighter then as the qualifying went on. Potentially we'll see that in the race then, or potentially it might even turn to a bit of rain. Then we never know then in this one, and we'll find out then as the race goes on. But I haven't got any weather forecast up in front of me for Suzuka right now. But there we go then. Let's go, says Rocket League then. Back-to-back pole positions as well then. Fantastic stuff indeed then for Rocket League. Then let's see how it goes then in the Grand Prix as we get ourselves started on the formation lap, and we will have a quick look then and see what everyone's tyre situations are for the start of this Grand Prix as well then. So the majority of the field then opting for the medium compound tyre. Then there's a few drivers on the hard compound, and that will be Rocket League's teammate Corey Brennan then is starting P6 and the highest runner who's starting on the hard compound tyre. So a bit of a contrast strategy then for the rest of the field, or for those who are on the hard compound tyres, that is. Sorry. Hards as well then for Jake the Slayer, then P11 for the Racing Bull driver, then Casey has opted for the hards as well, then so Ferrari splitting the strategy here for the start of the Grand Prix, that is. Umapro then on the hard compound tyres, as is his teammate then of IRS, and so both the Mercedes opting for a longer first stint then. Real Ashton also opting for the hard compound tyres then in P19. The majority of the field, the rest of the field on the medium compound tyres. Then in the championship standings then Luke leads the way then in the kick Sauber then after a very good first couple of rounds. Then we have got, I believe it is, goodness me, I can't remember who it is now, I'm very sorry. I think it might be Dan actually in the Alpine, who's very quiet and consistent then in the first couple of rounds. And let's see what we can do then from P8 here tonight then. And Rocket League then in P3 in the driver's standings. Then can he convert from pole position to the win? We will find out then in a few minutes time. Of course, we've got 27 laps of action here to unfold here in Japan then, as the leader takes us round on the formation lap as well then to get ourselves sorted and lined up on the grid then for the first of the 27 laps of action here in Japan then for round 3. So let's see how it goes then. We'll find out then as the stops then predicted strategies then, and medium to hard is probably the standard strategy, I suppose you could say. Then there's a few predicted strategies then of medium hard then, so I'm not quite sure it's going to be the best strategy here. We'll find out, but yes, we'll have to wait and see. Rocket League then will line us up on the grid then to start off this Japanese Grand Prix momentarily. Ultimate Beast said, "Well done, Lee," in the comment section as well then, so I think he's supporting the Williams driver then, who's on pole position tonight then. Let's see what Rocket League can do then from the front of the grid, I should say, as we're getting ourselves all lined up then into our grid slots then for the start of this Japanese Grand Prix. And Ultimate Beast knows a thing or two about pole positions, doesn't he, after a fantastic silver season then where he was crowned the champion last season in silver season 8 then. Right then, just about to get ourselves lined up on the grid. We'll switch to position changes so I can see what's going on, and fingers crossed we can get ourselves cracking here in Japan. Hopefully, yes. Yeah, there we go then. 5 red lights coming on here. Then the 5 red lights are on in Suzuka. The 5 red lights are out in Suzuka, and away we go then for the Japanese Grand Prix. Bit of a slow start, it looks like, then for the front runners then as we go round down towards turn 1 then, and both the kick Saubers looking to try and get their way through then, as Hungry Star's had an issue then, he's lost out to both the green machines then heading into turn 1 and 2 then, trying to go around the outside. There's contact there. Corey Brennan's had an issue then, he's down 2 positions. Oh my goodness me, then heading into the S's section, there's going to be a few drivers that go side by side in there, and my god, that is dangerous stuff indeed as we go through then into the first of sectors. And yeah, a lot of action in the back of the field then as well. Then unfortunately, Royal Ashton, IRS, Astra John, the Winnie's jumped up 4 places there in that first few quarters as well. Then fantastic stuff indeed from the Aston Martin. They're heading through into the first of the 2 Decners. And so far so good, keeping it nice and calm now, thankfully. Although we're still on the first lap, there's going to be frantic action out there, isn't it? Down the inside, I thought Mr. Elliott was going to throw that house then, but not quite then. Out in front, and then Rocket League leads the way then by 40 to the second. The Dynamo down, then both the kick Saubers have got themselves past Styles on that start as well. Then a great start indeed for the green machines. Not so much then for the Haas then, unfortunately then, but can he bring it back then in the rest of the race then? Of course, he's got plenty of time to think about it and contemplate on what he can do next then, to try and get himself back past those green cars, and we're getting in our way then. The kick Alpine, of course, that we've got to call them. Kick Sauber, if you don't really know what they're called, but they're actually called kick Sauber then, but for some reason I've called them kick Alpine. But there we go then. heading into the first lap then of the Casio Triangle then, and heading down towards the start-finish line then for Rocket Lee. And Rocket Lee has led us away then for the first lap. Then there is a gaggle of cars then following through then down the main straight. They're trying to break the slipstream then to Dynamite down. They're heading in towards turn 1 then. Not quite close enough then for the Rebel then to try and make a move, but he's gained quite a lot then with the slipstream then, and maybe using a bit of battery then into the first turn then for Dynamo down. Then both the kick salvers then trying to hold on then to the top 2 as it stands then flying through the S's section. And look at how much Smithy is gaining then as well. Then Winnie and Dukanko battling when there's contact there. It looks like the Ferrari then gone off the circuit, then trying to get himself back underway then into the S's section there. Not the ideal place to be going side by side, I have to say, but there we go then. Unfortunately for Dukanko, he's struggling out there as well. Then he's lost out quite a bit of momentum after that. Trying to get him restarted then, and he's now got Umabro, Astrojon, IRS and Real Ashton all over the back of him as well, then heading into Sector 2. And there is Astrojon trying to get himself past Umabro down the inside, then into the hairpin, then round the outside this time then it turns, but unfortunately can't get himself through. Then Gaming Infinity and Serious Mushroom in a bit of a battle as well. Then Mushroom up into P10, then he's lost a place then it looks like him, but I think that's because there was quite a gaggle of cars then trying to get himself through then in the S's section on the first lap. Then Mr. Elite is getting 3 places up into P9 now, trying to chase down Corey Brennan then, who's lost out then on the hard compound tyres. We'll switch to the tyre situation now, and of course Corey then started P6 then, but he is on the harder compound of tyre then, so we'll have to wait and see then which is going to be the best. Then into 130R, then Winnie makes the move, then passing Ginger Age then for P14, and Winnie on a charge, then he's up from P20 to P14 in the first 2 laps as well. Then Smithy set the fastest lap of the race, then as for John, oh dear, where's Umabro then? Umabro's had an issue then, oh no, in the race lead, then Dynamo Dan takes the lead, then Smithy's gone through as well then into turn 1, then Smithy takes P2, Dynamo Dan takes the lead of the Grand Prix. Fantastic stuff indeed then, and I think aided by a bit of DRS then down that main straight. Then only one DRS zone around here because they can't use DRS into 130R because the cars will just spin if they get that rear wing open with the speed that they're taking them through that corner as well then. But of course they can use it down the main straight in towards turn 1 then, which is a bit more of a heavier braking zone, isn't it? So, well, to be fair, 130R really isn't in a braking zone at all. So that's probably why. But there we go, then Dynamo Dan leads the way, then Smithy now up into P2, then chasing down the race leader. Then Rocket Lee has lost out then from P1 down to P3 for the time being, that is. But of course there is still plenty of time in this race, and I think Rocket Lee knows that. Then he wasn't too worried about letting those 2 go through because they know that he can keep up the pace then with those top 2 as well. Then Luke waiting in the wings in P4, then Hungry Styles then holding on as well, then P5. Dan then up into P6 then, looking good indeed. Then Jinno trying to hold on to the top 6 as it stands there, but just outside of that 1 second window as it stands as well, which will be problematic then if he can't get himself back in then, because that is going to be helpful for DRS down the main straight as well. Then he's losing time, then having a bit of an issue out the spoon curve. Then he's Jinno, but trying to get himself back underway, then using that ERS then to try and get himself in that 1 second window. We've got Dan very close to dropping out that window as well. Then goodness me, lots of speed then in the top 5 it seems. Then as Hungry Styles then flying through the Casio Triangle there as well. Then Dan is he going to have DRS then down this main straight? Then he needs to get that rear wing open, doesn't he? Because it's going to be helpful to pull himself along. Then Jinner as well then has, I think, got himself back in that DRS window as well then, which is just about in time, I should say, then for Jinner as well. My goodness me, there's been absolutely brilliant action so far in the first 4 laps. First 3 laps, I should say, but I'll include the formation lap as well. It was fantastic, brilliant formation lap, absolutely fantastic stuff indeed. Then wonderful formation lap, then best we've ever seen then for bronze. But yes, I'm not quite sure why I'm commentating on a formation lap there, but nonetheless, I am going to crack on with the racing itself now. To be fair, Smithy then is trying to put the pressure on Dynamo Dan, then heading into Sector 2 now as Hungry Stars flies through. Then Dan is just about holding on. Then Jinner then is starting to struggle. I think I'm not quite sure if his medium compound tyres may be starting to overheat then on the McLaren. Then Mr. Elite then trying to keep pace as well. Then Corey is down to P9. Then of course Corey on the hard compound tyres will start to phase in then in the next few laps or so when the hard compound becomes the better tyre then in terms of race strategy, that is. And maybe that is why then Corey has chosen those hard compound tyres then for the longer first stint then, and maybe using that extra speed then on the medium compound tyre in the second stint will get himself back up through the order then very quickly indeed. Then we'll have to wait and see then how it's going to unfold. Then goodness me, that twitchy back end then for the Alpine of Gaming Infinity then has lost him a place then to Serious Mushroom. No, they're going to go side by side down towards 130R then. Who's going to be the bravest then? I think Mushroom then is very wisely backed out of that one because he didn't want to get involved in through 130R then into the Casio Triangle, going down right behind the Alpine. Goodness me, that's very late on the brakes from Mushroom. I thought he was going to go in the back of the Alpine there, but he's managed to keep that car out of the diffuser then of that pink and blue car. and onto the main straight we go. Then Gino has lost out. Then Smithy has taken the lead. Then into turn 1. Then Smithy takes the lead then of the Japanese Grand Prix. Fantastic stuff indeed then for the Kick Sauber team. And away he goes then through the S section onto lap 5. And wow. It's pretty intense out the top then, isn't it? Because Dan is struggling to keep up. Then as is Jinner, then Jinner's dropped out that 1 second window, down to 1.5 seconds. The gap then in the top to the top 6, I should say, for Jinner. Then he's under pressure now from Mr. Elite. Then looking behind. Oh dear, that rear part of the car then trying to flick out then into Dunlop curve then for Jinner, and maybe those tyres then on the rear part of that McLaren are starting to overheat then in this frantic pace as well. Then we've got moves. No, we haven't got moves. We've got issues, I think. Then for IRS, then he's lost out then to Real Ashton as well. Then goodness me, not quite sure the Mercedes then were having a good time at this stage of the race then, but of course they're on the hard compound tyre as well then, so they might be trying to do what Corey Brennan is trying to do as well then in this race. We'll come back to that then later on then. Oh goodness me, Rocket Lee almost into the back of Dynamo Dan and right through the spoon curve then as we go through then onto the back straight then down towards 130R then, or up towards 130R then, this part of the track going upwards. I can't really tell my ups and downs, it seems like tonight, but there we go as we head down towards 130R then onto lap 5. So far so good then for the rest of the field, and they have been absolutely fantastic as bronze then so far. Oh god, Rocket Lee, oh dear. He's getting very overexcited, I think, trying to get himself past Dynamo Dan. He doesn't need to worry too much then if he just sticks with them for the time being then. Smithy Almighty then, can he hold on to the lead? Then Dynamo Dan looking to make a move then for the race lead, or retake the race lead I should say, then into turn 1 then. Dynamo Dan back up into P1 then. Fantastic stuff indeed. And Mr. Elite has passed Junior then for P7, then Casey and Winnie in a bit of a fight as well. Then Casey up into P12, then Casey on the hard compound tyres as well. So maybe we're starting to see the hard compound tyre phase in then as the better race, or almost equal race tyre I should say at this point. Real Ashton and IRS battling into turn 1, then Real Ashton takes back the place then from the Mercedes then. It's got a bit deep though, but maybe then IRS can try and battle back then. Goodness me, into the S's section we go then. Fantastic stuff indeed, and well done indeed then to both these two having a fantastic battle then for P19 and P20, but it doesn't matter where it is then because they're having putting on a fantastic show as well. So good stuff then from those two. Now into the, oh goodness me, I think Jinner's gone to the back of Mr. Elite then into the hairpin, and that could be very costly indeed for Jinner. Then heading into the hairpin as well. Then now Corey Brennan is trying to get his nose in there too, and I think Jinner has lost an end plate then, has he? No, he hasn't, and he's fighting back then with the Williams then heading into the spoon curve, and he's got the place back I think just about then, has he? Yes, he has. Good stuff indeed then, fantastic stuff as well then, because it's very close there and a very narrow part of the track as well then at high speed, and they have got themselves through then now onto the back straight as ALR Esports has left the session then. Good stuff, fantastic, well done indeed then from Faf, but now then heading into, thankfully wasn't the host to be fair, Winnie then has got himself back past Casey then, Corey and Gaming Infinity are battling as well then through the Casio Triangle then. I think Corey's held onto the place then for the time being, and now Mushroom is getting himself involved as well then for P10. Then Rocket Lee has taken the place past Smithy. Has he got the inside for turn 2 then? Yes, he has. And they're still side by side through there as well. They're heading into turn 3 now. Rocket Lee has taken the place away then from Smithy. Then Smithy, I think, backing out very wisely there. Didn't want to get involved. And kept his nose cone intact and kept his front wing intact very nicely indeed. Then Smithy down to P3 then, but of course still in the fight then for the race win and the race lead I should say then. Jinner and Mr. Elite are fighting through the S's section and up into Dunlop now as well then. My goodness me, and Corey's got his nose in there as well then. Oh my. Not quite sure what is going on here, but they've lost a lot of time then. Oh my, Mr. Elite as well then, back in, not having a good time. Then Casey's had an issue, then Casey's off the circuit there as well. Then where is that then? That's at the second Degnan then for Casey then, unfortunately for the Ferrari driver, trying to get himself back underway as quickly as possible then, but I think that's going to be a enforced stop then for Casey then on the for the front wing then. That's left end plate missing then for the Ferrari, unfortunately. Then heading into the second Degnan, and I think we saw it in gold as well. Then we saw if you get stuck on the curb on the exit of the first Degnan, it sort of spits you out then into the gravel then at the second Degner as well then, doesn't it? I think Casey might have been a victim of that as well then. My goodness me, then heading out to the front then once again, and we've got Dynamo Dan now under pressure from Rocket Lee into the Casio Triangle once again. Then Rocket Lee very late on the brakes. I don't know, he's not too worried about his front wing. He's had a bit of a problem then over the curves then at the final corner, then that could open the door for Smithy then potentially. Rocket Lee might be looking for a charge then down the main straight for the race lead then. Yes, he's going for it now into P1 then for Rocket League. Back up into P1, I should say as well then. Goodness me, fantastic stuff. New Corey and Mr. Elite then switching places. Then Corey up into P8 now as well then, trying to chase down Jinner then. Of course, I think they've had a bit of an argy-bargy then as Jinner and Mr. Elite. Then Casey in the pit lane now for Ferrari as well then, to get that front wing sorted as well then as quickly as possible, hopefully, for the Ferrari driver as well then. Good stuff. The Aston Martin's then lying astern, then P11 and P12 for the time being, trying to get themselves past Gaming Infinity, who's done a good job then so far on his debut as well then. Lap 8 then of 27, then we're at the third of the way point then almost, as we fly through then under the bridge then into Sector 2 then. Casey then onto a set of medium compound tyres then, and hopefully back underway as quickly as possible then. Of course that front wing change is going to take an age, it will feel like an age whilst he is in the box then. Out in front then, Dynamo Dan then is had a bit of an issue somewhere, because he's lost a bit of time then to Rocket League, who's trying to rocket away then, I think, then in the Williams. Let's see if he can do it, though, is the question. He's got enough ERS then to play with him onto the back straight then. I think Dynamo Dan might try to reel him back in. Then Jinner has got a 3-second penalty then, heading through into the spoon curve then. That's 3 warnings then picked up then from the McLaren. Unfortunately, the first penalty of the evening so far, but there might be some more coming through in the latter stages of this race. We have to wait and see. Right then, Corey then is all over the back of Jinner now. I think he's now on those hard compound tyres. This is maybe where the hard compound tyre starts to switch on now, and this could be where they are the better tyre then in this, from this point on then in this stint, I should say. And of course those on the medium compound tyres. Oh dear, Jinner then getting a bit out of shape then into the final corner then, and now Corey Brennan's got a great lead, a great jump then on the McLaren, then heading down the main straight. Then IRS has got a 3-second penalty as well. Then goodness me, then Winnie and Mushroom have switched places. Then Winnie's going to go for a move down the inside of the Alpine. Sorry, my goodness. And now Mushroom's going to go back past him as well then. Dearie me then. I think that was a bit of an ambitious move then from Winnie then. Ginger Rage and Dukanko battling over there. Then Dukanko then up into P14 then. As it stands then, Astrotron then is going to try and get himself back underway as well in the on the medium compound tyres in the McLaren. Then we've got both the Mercedes on the hard compound tyre, as is Real Ashton. Then Casey has pit for a new front wing then onto a set of medium compound tyres. And can he charge on now as well then? Oh dear, that's like I said, once again, there's a few drivers having a few issues out the final quarter, it seems, there with the traction. And Casey's on fresh tyres as well now, so I'm not quite sure. He shouldn't be having too much issues, I don't think, but it seems like that Ferrari is a bit unstable then at this point of the Grand Prix then. Let's see how the rest of the drivers are faring now on much older tyres as well then, compared to Casey, that is. Oh dear, going through the spoon, and that is a very slow spoon curve then for Dynamo Dan, and that could open the door now for the for Rocket League firstly to try and get that 1-second gap then, but for Smithy as well then to try and make a move then into 130R. Then Dynamo Dan using the ERS to try and get himself back in that 1-second window. He has done as well. Then good stuff indeed then from Dynamo Dan. And we've got Winnie and Mushroom again battling, heading through into 130R then, my goodness me, then, and Gaming Infinity then is holding them up then in the Alpine then right in front of us, heading into the Casio Triangle then. But of course Gaming Infinity is fighting for position, but unfortunately he has lost out to the DRS then, and now he's going to be very vulnerable then to both the Aston Martins heading onto the main straight here as they fly through. Then Winnie up into P10 now, flying down the main straight then in towards turn 1. Winnie has got that place done and dusted, but Serious Mushroom a bit too far back then, and now Gaming Infinity in a bit of an Aston Martin sandwich as it stands. But we'll have to wait and see how that fares. But at the moment, we'll crack on then. Can Winnie catch up to Mr. Elite? Then Mr. Elite has not been able to get himself caught up to Jinner then, as Corey's got himself passed into P7 as well then, with that mistake from Jinner then at the final corner then. Corey breezed through then with the DRS as well. Then now the hard compound tyres then. Can they switch on? Can he get that 4-second gap then to the top 6 down into back into his favour, I should say then, as we'll see in the next few laps or so then. Lap 10 of 27 here. My goodness me, I'm losing my breath, but that's nothing new. To be fair, I usually lose my breath on lap 1, but so far so good. Then here in Suzuka, then it's been absolutely fantastic racing indeed from the top, or from all the field, to be fair. But let's see how it's going to go then in the second half of this Grand Prix as well. Then around the spoon curve, then on lap 10, then heading on to the back straight. Oh dear, Luke's that back end sliding then for Luke then on the kick salve, and then got himself corrected and back underway, pointing in the right direction quickly enough then to make sure he stays within the DRS of his teammate Smithy as we go through into 130R once again. Smithy very late on the brakes and almost into the back of Dynamo Dan as well then through the Casio Triangle then. My goodness me, we've seen some very late breakers through the Casio Triangle, aren't we, tonight? Here we go then onto the main straight then. Can Dynamo Dan power parts then into P1 then? I think he might be a bit too far back to make the move then on Rocket Lee into turn 1. He is a bit too far back then at this stage. And onto lap 11 we go then. So far so good then for the top 6 then. They are doing a great job then. Corey then is 5 seconds behind then into the first turn then for Corey then. He is holding on to P7 for the time being as well. Then Ginger Rage is into into the pit lane. Ginger Age calling it now then very early on indeed then for the Racing Bull team. Can that, or will that be a strategic call then? Will that be a masterclass then from Ginger Age? We'll find out then. He's onto a fresh set of hard compound tyres. A bit slow to get away then from the pit box, but I think that's just a visual glitch then from my end as we go out in P19 then. Back underway then for Ginger Age. Fresh set of hard compound tyres and away he goes. Let's see what it's going to be like then for Ginger Age. And can he get himself a few places undercut then as well? Then we head through as Winnie's picked up a 3-second photo. Then going into the first and second Degners, and Gaming Infinity is going to slide up the inside there. And Winnie's still got the inside for the hairpin as they battle side by side. My goodness me, then Winnie not leaving too much room then on the exit there. But he was just, I think it was just about a car's width then for the Alpine. But Winnie then having an issue, then picking up a penalty as well. Then that's going to be added to his race time at the end of lap 27 then. So that could be costly indeed then for the likes of Jidder, the likes of Winnie, and for IRS as well. Then the 3 drivers with penalties as it stands, but of course there could be some more picked up I should say then throughout the race. We will find out. So far so good then. Like I said, the top 6 then are just, I think, in a bit of a lull at the moment. They're just keeping it calm at this point. I believe, I'm not quite sure, but that's what I would do if I was in the top 6 right now. Then is just take it easy right now, because you're just cruising then to the next pit stop phase, or into the second stint, I should say. Then Mr. Elite is also in the pits as well, and Serious Mushroom following the Haas driver in as well. So there's a few more pit stop activities going on then. Gaming Infinity back past Winnie then with the aid of the DRS then in towards turn 1 then up into P9 now. Good stuff indeed then. Jenner is back past Corey Brennan then. So Jenner then is still powering on then on the medium compound tyres. It's not done and dusted just yet on the medium compound then for the McLaren. Now let's see, where is Mr. Elite then, who coming out the pit lane now? Then IRS is coming out the pit, coming down the main straight, I should say. Then goodness me, it's going to be close indeed then between himself and the Haas then, but IRS takes the place. And of course he is on slightly older tyres than Mr. Elite. Then goodness me, they're going to go side by side through here into turn 3. Not quite then. And this is bad news for Mr. Elite. He's been a bit held up and then by the Mercedes, and he's on older tyres as well. Then goodness me, I thought Mr. Elite managed to back him then, but trying to get through. Oh god, that's close indeed. And Mr. Elite just needs to make sure he takes it easy then. Oh dear, IRS then got a bit wide at Dunlop then, and that could open the door for Mr. Elite then into the first and second Egners potentially. Then we'll see. Let's find out now. But Mr. Elite, of course, on the fresh tyres, will want to clear the Mercedes as quickly as possible then into the hairpin. Is he going to make a move? Make a move, I should say. Goodness me. Not quite then as we go through then on the exit of the hairpin as well. Then Serious Mushroom right behind us as well here on the hard compound tyres. Also, Gaming Infinity has been passed by Winnie then. Winnie through into 130R then as we got leaders pitting as well. Then Dynamo Dan in the pits, and as is Smithy, as is Styles, as is Dan. Rocket Lee and Luke carry on then at this stage. We'll see what's going on in the rest of the order. Then Gino also in the pit, so is Winnie as well. Then goodness me, lots of pit stop activity here as well. Then Corey Brennan stayed out. Of course, he's on the hard combat tyres. Gaming Infinity has stayed out in P4 now. Jake the Slayer goes through to P5 as we stand, and we'll see if there's any more 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane for Astrodron. Unfortunately, I'm not quite sure why he's pitted as well. He's going to be held up slightly there, very slightly, because his teammate did pit as well. Then on the previous, or on the same lap, I should say. Goodness me, Umabro up into P10. Then of course he's yet to pit as well in the Mercedes. And we've got all sorts of movers and shakers. My goodness me, what's happened there? Oh my, as we go into turn 1 then. Oh god, that's very close. Winnie then on the exit. Then Mr. Elite is now in the Aston Martin sandwich, replacing Gaming Infinity then from the previous lap. Oh god, that was very close indeed then. And now Winnie then out on the he's got 1 lap per younger tyres then, but of course the warm tyres then with Mr. Elite with the Serious Mushroom as well then, as we head into Dunlop now as well. Then goodness me, Winnie then just battling to hold on then to that position as well. Then Mr. Elite has gone through. No, Winnie's had an issue, and he's back, he's dropped down then, has Winnie then down to P14, and both Mr. Elite and Serious Mushroom have gone through there as well. Then Ginger Age has passed Real Ashton then into the second Degner. Then fantastic stuff indeed. Really got to move on then, has Ginger Age now after we've been the first stopper, then the first man to show us the way then in terms of the strategy. Hungry Styles and Dan are battling as well. Then Dan has got himself up into P8 then through the spoon curve. Now here comes Styles then with some with some DRS. To get himself back through then, and heading into 130R. Then Dan tucks back in. Then we've got Umabro right behind us. Of course, Umabro yet to pit. Then we've got Gaming Infinity in the pit lane. He's got a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pits. Unfortunately for Gaming Infinity, that's bad news indeed. Then Rocket Lee has pitted for the hard compound tyres. Corey then is into the lead of the Grand Prix for Williams. Then fantastic stuff indeed. We've got a problem then for a McLaren. I think it's maybe Astrodron then. Oh dear, he's had an issue somewhere. Gaming Infinity then has unfortunately got that penalty then, but can he soldier on in this race then and get himself some points still for himself and the team? Gino then up into P10, then Gaming Infinity will come out. Where will he come out though is going to be the question. Then it's going to be close indeed, and he's going to come out ahead of Mr. Elite then, and ahead of the Aston Martin pair then. Of course, Gaming Infinity was part of that battle then before the pit stop phase then, so he's back into the harsh reality then of the battle once again then, as Mr. Elite of course on much warmer tyres. My goodness me, then who's into the back of the Alpine there. Goodness me, that was very dangerous stuff indeed then, and I don't think the cold tyres on the Alpine are helping Gaming Infinity then with the situation that he's in at the moment then, as we go through into the first Degner then. He's gone a bit wide there as well then, and now potentially Mr. Elite could smell some blood then for that P11 position, I should say then. Goodness me, right then out in front then, it's almost status quo then. The top two have yet to pit then in this Grand Prix. They started the race on the hard compound tyres, that is why 5 seconds back then is Rocket Lee then, so he's going to be very quick indeed then to try and catch up to those battling pack, or that battling pack I should say then. Winnie and Mr. Elite then are switching places as well, then heading into the spoon curve. Winnie up into P13. Oh dear, not quite sure what happened there then. Winnie has got himself past Gaming Infinity. Has he? Or has he? I'm not quite sure. Yes, I think he has. Although I think Gaming Infinity then with some ERS is coming back at him into 130. Then this is going to get tight indeed. Then heading into this left-hander then at high speed, and they've got themselves through very well indeed. Brilliant stuff. I'm a poet and I didn't know it. Then good stuff indeed. Then Numabro into the pits as well then to call it there on the hard compound tyres, then onto a set of medium tyres I should say he shall go, I imagine, as Gaming Infinity then takes that P10 position. Then here comes the gaggle of cars then into turn 1 then. Oh my god, and Mr. Elite, you can't go for the gap there. He's been boxed in then into turn 1. Unfortunately then for Mr. Elite then, like I said, when you're boxed in like that then there's nothing you can do really, is there? Numabro then out of the pit lane, and he's going to be ahead of Casey Jennett then, and ahead of Astra John just about then, I think. On the medium compound tyres then is the Mercedes then. Good stuff indeed. Then can he get himself, he needs to get himself underway quicker enough than that then, let's just say that. Good stuff indeed. Right then, Rocket Lee is the net race leader from Smithy Almighty then in P2. Dynamo Dan then P3, or net P3 I should say, then Luke net P4. Dan and Styles then, they've had an issue somewhere because they were in the top 6 fight then, or the net top 6 fight now, but they've lost out 2 seconds then to the now net top 4 I should say then. Goodness me, there's too many nets around here, I'm going to get caught. But there we go then. Corey then is going to be, we'll see what Corey's going to do then. Is he going to come in the pit lane very soon, or is he going to try and extend the stint here and maybe go for fresher tyres towards the end then? But he's coming into the pit lane now, then he's calling it a day then on the hard compound tyres. Then into the box we go then. Jake the Slayer next to come in. Yes, he is then, so he's coming into the pit lane from the Racing Ball team then. The second Racing Ball, of course, to pit in this race then. Rocket Lee retakes the lead then, or the net race lead I should say then. Corey onto his medium compound tyres. Where will he come out then, and can he get himself back in the fight then on those fresh medium compound tyres then? Gino's got the fastest lap of the Grand Prix and takes back P7 then just about then. Corey then coming out of the pit lane now into P8 I think. And Gaming Infinity has got a 10-second penalty again then for speeding in the pit lane. I'm not quite sure what's happened then to Gaming Infinity. He seems to be struggling out there, and I'm not quite sure why he has pitted for a second time as well then, because he's just gone on the hard compound tyres a few laps ago, or 2 laps ago then. And yes, it seems to be not going the way then of the Alpine driver tonight then, it seems, as it stands then, as yes, he's well, somebody else picked up a penalty as well there. So penalties are running amok then already then. Lap 16 then of 27 as we fly through into sector 2 then. Smithy Almighty leads the Grand Prix. I've completely missed the change for the race lead, but there we are. Rocket Lee then down to P2 for the time being, but like I said, I think Rocket Lee then is very aware of what's going on around him, and he's being patient for this first stint, or the second stint as well now, as we go into the first few laps of the second stint. But he's just biding his time, as is Dynamo Dan and as is Luke. They've got a 2.6 second gap now to Dan and Styles, and these two are going to be in a bit of a no man's land as it stands at the moment then, and fighting for P5 at best then at the moment, that is, unless things go a different way than in the next few laps or so, but we'll find out then. Gino now up into P7, then Corey, fresh medium compound tyres, then how quick are they going to be then compared to the slightly older hard compound tyres? But of course the tyre that can go the longer distance as well then is the hard compound tyre, so we'll have to wait and see then which is the best strategy then. Corey then onto the medium compound tyres. Let's see what he can do. Can he get himself up in the order then? Can he get himself in the fight for the top 5 then? We've got Rocket Lee taking back the lead then in towards turn 1 then. Rocket Lee back up into P1 then. Hungry Styles has passed Dan for P5 then, heading into the first corner as well then. Hungry Styles up into P5 now. Good stuff indeed. but 3 seconds back from this gaggle then of cars, I should say, which are battling for in the top 4, then battling for the race lead as well. Then as we head on to lap 17, of 27, Ginger Rage got himself past IRS then for P13 as well here. IRS yet to pit actually in this Grand Prix, maybe trying to extend the stint then for a safety car or maybe a medium compound tyre or even a soft compound tyre towards the end of this race when he does choose to pit as well. And Gaming Infinity is back in the pit lane again. I'm not quite sure what is happening then for the Alpine driver. He's really having a few issues out there. Is Gaming Infinity then in the Alpine, but he is back in the pits then. I'm not quite sure. Oh, I don't think they changed his front wing then when he did. Maybe he's got some damage. They didn't change his front wing then on his previous stop there as well. Then that is terrible news indeed. And that is definitely not what you want as a racing driver then as we go into the pits. And I think this time they have sorted it out, or have they? I'm still not sure they have as well. We've got yellow flags out there. Yellow flags for somebody as well. Goodness me, what's happened then? It's I think it was a McLaren. It might have been Jenner then, but he's got himself past Dan somewhere. No, it might have been Dan who's had an issue then. Goodness me. And Dan's had an issue somewhere then, I think at the spoon curve then, because he's lost out to Styles. Now Styles having to P5 then and holding on to P5 then because he was being challenged by Dan, but Dan's had an issue somewhere and now is in a fight with Jenner as well then for P6 instead of P5, as we've got Smithy taking the lead of the Grand Prix once again then into lap 18. We've got the move then for the race lead then, and Smithy then takes back the lead then for the Kick Sauber team. Very good stuff indeed. So Dan had an issue somewhere, I think at the spoon curve then. Mr. Elite and Mushroom, goodness me, then battling into the first couple of corners as well then. Mr. Elite then and the Aston Martins have been battling all the way through then. There's Smithy, and Smithy's lost out then to, oh goodness me, and Luke's trying to go through as well then. Smithy's losing the car all over the place there, and goodness me, that was close stuff indeed then, but I'm not quite sure what happened then. Smithy seemed to have a bit of a problem then through Dunlop then, and that opened the door for the top 3 now to go through, and Luke then was very close to having a bit of an issue then with his teammate, I think there. Rocket League back into the lead then, Dynamo down P2, and Luke now into P3 then. Smithy then unfortunately from the lead of the Grand Prix then down to P4 then, but still in the fight then. Hungry Styles is bringing that gap down actually to the top 4 then, so potentially Styles could get himself back in the fight then for potentially a podium or even a race win here. We'll have to find out then in the latter stages then. We're already 2/3 of the way through the Grand Prix now. Brilliant stuff indeed then from the top of the field then. Over the crest of the hill then comes Gino, then followed by Dan. We've got Dynamo Dan going for the lead of the Grand Prix into the Casio Triangle then. Oh my god, it's aggressive, isn't it? And I'm not quite sure what was going on there, but Rocket Lee has not got DRS either then. Goodness me then. And now down the main straight we go then, and Rocket Lee is lost out to Luke then into the first turn, then he's lost out to Smithy as well then. But I think, like I said, very wise indeed then. I think I'm not quite sure what was going on into the Casio Triangle, but it seems like a few drivers then are maybe misjudging their braking points, which is very, very treacherous indeed. But nothing that even the best drivers don't do. So we will let them off then, won't we? So there we go. Then Dynamo Dan takes the lead of the Grand Prix. We've got yellow flags near. Where is that? It's not for the Mercedes. I don't think it's for Ginger Rage. Is it? No, it's not for Ginger Rage either. Not quite sure what was going on there. Maybe is it? I think Gaming Infinity then just letting lap cars, sorry, the leaders go through. But yeah, unfortunately for Gaming Infinity, it's just not gone his way tonight. Then unfortunately with the wing damage and the front wing not being changed in the pit stop phase, which is just typical, really, isn't it? But there we go, then we've all been there, unfortunately. Me more than most. There we go then. Right then, lap 19. And Dynamo Dan leads away then both the green machines of the Kick Sauber of Luke and Smithy then flying through, then following that Red Bull then through the spoon curve, then Rocket Lee in close proximity as well then in the Williams in P4. Then we've got Styles then 1.7 seconds back then. If there's any issues with the top 4, Styles is not going to be too far away then, is he? So he's cruising over to 130 yard there. You can see his arrivals right in front of him, but unfortunately he's just outside of that 1 second window to use that DRS then on the main straight then. Gino's gone through into P6 then. Dan has got himself back underway then. He's got himself a bit of a challenge now, as Corey Brennan is coming into his wing mirrors as well then in the Williams, and Corey on the medium compound tyres might be thinking about getting himself through then, passing these two and maybe trying to get himself further up the road as well then for some more positions. We'll wait and see. Oh dear, Luke going around the outside then. Dynamo Dan's got the inside then for turn 2 then, and Luke I think has taken the lead. Yes, he has done it, and now Red Bull in a bit of a sandwich then for Dynamo Dan, a bit of a green sandwich as well then, so it's a bit mouldy, but there we are. Then Serious Mushroom's got himself past his teammate Winnie then into turn 1 as well. Then Serious Mushroom over to P9 now, 7 seconds behind Corey though, so it's been a bit of a feat then for Mushroom to try and get himself some more positions in this race, unless things go awry for the top of the field. Then Casey and Astra John then switching places as well, then heading down the main straight. Then Astra John up into P17. And we go through onto lap 20 now. Wow, it's been 20 laps of fantastic action then. Hopefully I haven't jinxed it now as well, but I probably have. No, it's too late now, commentator curse and all that. But there we go then, Hungry Star as Rocket Lee. Oh no, Rocket Lee's had an issue at the exit of the hairpin then. Has he got wing damage? I hope not. It looks like there might be some problems then for the left end plate there for Rocket Lee. Goodness me. Oh, that's a big shame then, because of course he was on pole position for this Grand Prix as well then. And it was looking pretty good then. Rocket Lee then unfortunately has, I'm probably going to have to pit them, but potentially can go on the soft compound tyres from here and get himself a good haul of points then. We'll have to wait and see. Right then, Luke takes the lead. Sorry, Dynamo Dan then is still in that green machine sandwich here as well then, with kick salvers all over him as well. And both sides then for Dynamo Dan then, he's being sandwiched by green. But now onto the main straight, can he take back the lead of the Grand Prix and get himself ahead of those green machines? And Hungry Star is now up into P4, then Jin at P5, we've got Dynamo Dan, sorry, taking the lead, then Smith, he's got himself past his teammate as well, then into P2, then so both the kick salver switching places as well, then into the pits comes Rocket Lee, then he's calling it a day, then well, he has to call it a day, unfortunately, with that front wing damage, and hoping to get himself onto a new set of boots as well, then get himself back underway. Rocket Lee then onto, hopefully onto the medium compound tyres or the hard compound tyres, but we'll find out for the Williams very soon. But he will be on a charge, I'm sure, then in the next part of the stint then, to try and get himself back into the points paying positions, of course. Then points then up into P15 here, as we got more battling then for Casey and Astra John then. Very slow stop indeed then for Rocket Lee. But he's back out then and back underway and on the medium compound tyres then, so that probably is the best choice I think then for the from this point on, I should say then, because of course the soft compound tyres do not tend to last very well around here. Dynamo Dan then leads the way then onto lap 21, then into the spoon curve we go then, and both the kick salvers then following in close proximity. Then Hungry Stars 1.7 seconds back then, unfortunately can't get that gap then under that 1.5 or into that 1 second gap that he would truly need. But heading on to 130R then on lap 21, then so far so good then. Corey Brennan now within DRS of Jenner then for that P5 position, and he's only 2 seconds away from Styles after that as well. Then can he get himself through? Can he get himself on the podium potentially here then for Corey? Then we'll have to wait and see then for Williams. But we'll find out then in just a jiffy then. The same strategy then for Slayer as well. Then Slayer is trying to catch up to Mr. Elite, to Winnie and to Mushroom as well. Then Corey's got a 3-second penalty then coming through the final corner then. Unfortunately that's going to be very costly indeed. Smith, he takes the lead of the Grand Prix then onto lap 22. Then Rocket Lee's picked up a 3-second penalty as well then. My goodness me. And yes, I'm not quite sure what's going on out there. Then Rocket Lee then is trying to get himself back in the race as well here. To be fair, we've seen the pace from Rocket Lee. Then we might see some more pace then in this next stint. Then Winnie's got himself past the teammate. Mr. Lee's got himself past the teammate. Sorry, not past the teammate, because it's not his teammate. It's Mushroom as well. Then goodness me, as they switch places once again. These three then battling away. Then could bring Slayer into the fight as well potentially. We'll have to wait and see as we go through the S's section now. Umabro has passed his teammate for P14. Both Mercedes running in the points paying positions as it stands. We'll have to wait and see then, because Casey then is going to be closing in as well. Then Casey in the Ferrari, then of course he's on much older medium compound tyres, having pit earlier then, but he's all over the back of IRS. Rocket Lee is back in the pit lane, and what has happened to Rocket Lee then? He's having a lot of issues there, trying to get himself back in the pit lane. Okay, yeah, maybe he's got some sort of problem then, but nonetheless, hopefully he can get himself back in the box then in just a jiffy. Yes, it seems like Rocket Lee is, that's definitely what he's going to speed up actually now in the pit. I'm not quite sure if there's damage then to Rocket Lee. He is unfortunately retired in the box then for Rocket Lee. He is out of the race and the first retirement of the Grand Prix on lap 22. Rocket Lee then unfortunately from pole position then to DNF then in the pit lane, and that is not good news then for Rocket Lee. Here comes Dynamo Dan then. Can he get himself back up into the race lead? It could be on the cards then for a race win for the Red Bull team here. Heading down the straight then we go then into turn 1 then Dan has taken the lead, then Rocket Lee has left the session, but Dynamo Dan, goodness me, has taken the lead of the Grand Prix then into lap 23 then. There's only 5 laps remaining including this one then. It's been frantic racing to be fair here in Suzuka tonight then. Brilliant racing indeed as well then from Bronze, as Mr. Elite then takes the place then away from Willie then into turn 1. Rocket doing a Kiki, then Kiki spins. Well, there we go then. He's learnt from the best indeed. IRS, sorry, is in the pit lane, and he's actually not pitted just yet. I didn't realise that. Actually, IRS and soft compound tyres going on the Mercedes car. Well, that's interesting stuff indeed. Then will he come out ahead of Real Ashton? We will find out very shortly. Then in the top of the order, then we've got the two Kick Saubers then chasing down, and Styles then is chasing down the top three as well. Then look at him go. Styles then is on for potentially a podium here, if he can get himself into the mix as well. Then IRS coming out the pit lane, soft compound tyres for the Mercedes. Then unfortunately, Gaming Infinity, he's a lap down, but has had a nightmare then with the pit stop and not changing his front wing then when he needed it most indeed as well. But there we go then onto the back straight. Then lap 23. Then only 4 laps remaining then as we cross over into lap 24 momentarily. Then here comes the Kick Sauber army then heading into the Casio Triangle then all over the back of Dynamo Dan. A great exit then from the Casio Triangle then for Smithy Almighty as well. Then DRS now down the main straight. Here he goes for the race lead. Then these two switching places, then switching roles then, and here comes Luke as well. Then can Luke go for it? No, he thinks better of it there. And of course Luke then leading the championship then needs to be a bit more wise, a bit more calmer head then on the shoulders then of the Kick Sauber driver as well. And we'll have to wait and see then if he's going to try and make another move then later on in this race, and when it starts to get to the very dying embers then of the Grand Prix as well, then heading through into the S's section of Sector 1. Then yellow flags and Gaming Infinity has retired in the pit lane. I think that is unfortunately he is out of the race. Rocket Lee says not something about the penalty points, it's pointless. There we go then. Unfortunately, Rocket Lee then, well, like I said, he was doing a good job then in qualifying, and it was going all right in the race then. Unfortunately, that mistake then at the exit of this corner here, the hairpin, like I said, getting the traction down through here can be difficult. Sorry, goodness me. Hungry Styles then, can he get himself into the fight then with the top three? Then the yellow flags are just for the Alpine of Gaming Infinity coming out of the pit lane there. His ghost car, hopefully that is. But there we go. Then Winnie, there's been passed by his teammate once again of Serious Mushroom. Then Luke and Dynamo Dan. Dynamo Dan's off the circuit. Then and Hungry Styles is up in the podium places. Then Dynamo Dan's had an issue at the spoon curve, and he's trying to get himself back underway. Then, but he's down to P6 then, and now Dan, his former teammate, could try and steal that P6 away from him as well. Then, but goodness me, all action here as well. Then Dynamo Dan trying to get himself back underway. He has got himself back underway, but my goodness me, what has happened then at the spoon curve then for Dynamo Dan? And can he get himself back in contention then with Jinna and Corey? Then of course those two have penalties as well, and so Dynamo Dan could still pick up a couple more places here if he can get himself back in the fight. Then Real Ashton and IRS battling away. Then we've got the new leader then of Smithy then on to lap 25. Then 3 laps remaining here in this Grand Prix. Then Luke into P2. Then Hungry Styles on the podium here as well. Then brilliant stuff indeed from Styles. Then hopefully he can give it all together, and I haven't cursed him. But there we go then. Dynamo Dan then is your driver of the day vote as well. Then Luke in Styles and Smithy then are your other candidates then for the driver of the day for bronze season 9 round, as Gaming Infinity has left the session. Then Winnie is pit for soft compound tyres here, so he's going to go for the fastest lap of the Grand Prix I think then as well. So those are your 4 candidates then for driver of the day. Then Dynamo Dan, Luke, Styles, Smithy as well. Then we'll switch over to the position changes and see what's going on there as well. Then Smithy and Luke both up 3 places, and Styles has stayed P3 then, but had a difficult start then and did lose out to both Kick Saubers in the first stint then, but he's got himself back over to the podium places now. Jinna then has got 3 places gained, but unfortunately with the penalty situation might come under a bit of pressure. Then Dynamo Dan unfortunately has dropped down 4 places then after that issue on the lap that the driver of the day vote came out. So there you go. But fantastic stuff indeed then. So far so good then for the rest of the field. And unfortunately 2 retirements then in this Grand Prix as we go on to lap 25 then of 27. Then we've been flying through this Grand Prix as well then, to be fair. Absolutely epic stuff indeed. Then soft compound tyres now for Winnie. Then he's stuck behind Astra John then for the time being, heading into the hairpin. But that is the situation there as well. Then we'll get that off the screen. Through the hairpin we go then, and with the fresh grip then, as Winnie trying to get himself past Astra John then in the McLaren then, Winnie and Winnie and Astra John then in the Aston Martin and the McLaren then into the spoon curve. Not quite then for Winnie. But there we go. Mr. Elite now all over the back of Dan then, as I'm not quite sure what's happened, as I think Dan might have had another issue then as well, because Dan is now under pressure from Mr. Elite. Then Mr. Elite takes P7 then for the Haas team. Good stuff indeed from Mr. Elite. Then he's soldiering on out there, up 5 places then after a bit of a difficult qualifying. Then it has to be said then, goodness me, what is happening here at Kick Sauber Station then, and my goodness me, it could be the first 1-2 of the season then for the Green Machines then, and we would have thought that that would have been in gold then with Sam Swift then being part of the, oh dear, has Winnie got a tenth? What's happened to Winnie? He's coming back in. Okay. Bit of an odd one that, but nonetheless, we'll crack on. So there we go then. Luke then is all over the back of Smithy then for the lead of this Grand Prix. Then 2 seconds back now is Styles. And unfortunately Styles, I thought he got himself in the fight almost there, but has dropped off now in the last couple of laps or so, but is still running in a podium place for the time being. So that is looking pretty good indeed then for Styles as well. Then as it stands, it could be his first podium of the season. As it stands then into 130R then for the penultimate time, then Luke and Smithy, then it could be a battle of the kick Saubers here then when he is back past Ashton Army, but I'm not quite sure why when he had to pit again there, but never mind, hopefully he can get himself the fastest lap on the final lap now. But here comes Luke then on to lap 27, then can he get himself a move then for the race lead? Smithy's going to fight this I think then, but the team is going to want them to be very courteous indeed to each other. Then there's contact, and my goodness me, only a slight tap then, but Smithy then is down to P2. Luke takes the lead then onto the final lap of the Grand Prix. Then can they, or will there be some more changes? Then we'll have to wait and see. But yes, it depends on whether the team is allowed to fight. Then Ginger Age picked up a penalty then, but unfortunately for himself and Styles, sorry for Umapro, won't change their positions there. Jake the Slayer has passed Dandan. Dandan is struggling out there. Then he's down to P10 now. Unfortunately for Dandan, the former driver runner up then in Bronze Season 8. Then P3 in Bronze Season 8. Then he is really having a bit of a troubled time then in the last few laps here in Suzuka then, but we'll come back to that one then as we go through then on the final lap then through the hairpin. Now here comes the race leaders, and wow, it's 0.4 of a second then. It's going to be very close over the finish line I think then, because Smithy is going to try and save up some battery then to use down the back straight in towards 130R. Can Luke repel him is the question though as we go through the spoon curve for the final time now. Here comes Luke then on the charge, and now here comes Smithy on the charge, I should say. Goodness me, then, as we try and get see if there's going to be some rolls reverse then into the Casio Triangle is your best bet then, and Smithy is going for it. Here he comes in 0.2 of a second. He's gaining. It's 1/10 of a second now as we go into the braking zone, but I think he's too far back. Oh dear, Luke then I think was getting a bit flighty out of there then, and this could be very close as well. We go down the hill towards the start finish line, but I think it's going to be Luke then who takes the win here in Japan then. A fantastic race victory then for the Kick Sauber, and Luke then takes the crown then. A brilliant race then from Luke then, and what a win then, up 4 places as well then for Luke, and claims the victory here in Suzuka then for round 3 then. A brilliant win in the Green Machine then. Smithy Almighty then P2 as well then, a fantastic 1-2 then for Kick Sauber as well then, and a brilliant race indeed then between the two of them. Right to the finish line as well then. Smithy Almighty takes P2 then. Hungry Styles rounds off the podium then, his first podium of the season as well then for Styles then. Brilliant stuff indeed then. Gina holds on to P4 then. Corey P5 when he's got a 3-second run, and then Dynamo Dan then P6 then after that spin. Unfortunately couldn't recover there. Mr. Elite P7, well done to him as well then. Mushroom up into P8 as well. Brilliant stuff indeed. Dan P9 then. Slayer P10 in the end then into the top 10 then. Astrotron's got a 10-second run that he's served then to Kanko P11, Ginger Age P12, Casey P13, Numabro P14, Astrotron P16, then IRS, Winnie and Ashton Army then will round off P16, 17 and 18 as well then. But my goodness me then, what a fantastic Grand Prix that has been, and it's absolutely flown past me as well. Hate this track, says Formula Momentum as well then. So there we go then, good stuff indeed. Right then, GG's guys says the Ginner as well then. GG Bronze from Beast as well, and to the top 3 then, which of course was the 2 Kick Saubers and Hungry Styles then. Brilliant stuff from the top 3 in Suzuka tonight. Then we'll get a few interviews underway hopefully as well then after we watch the lovely podium celebrations then. Both Kick Sauber drivers then on the top 2 steps as well then. The Haas of Hungry Styles then in P3 tonight then. Fantastic here in Suzuka then. Unfortunately bad luck then indeed for Rocket Lee then, and for Gaming Infinity as well then, and I think we had, and for Winnie to be fair as well, because he had a couple of stops there at the end, but fair play indeed then. What about 4th, says Gina then? Well done to 4th as well then. We'll run through the classification in just a jiffy there, but the top 3 first have to get their time in the sun as they go through then the podium celebrations as well then. So great stuff indeed. I think who got the driver of the day? I think Smithy got driver of the day in the end there, but I'm not quite sure. But there is the classification then for the Japanese Grand Prix round 3 of season 9 for bronze. That is Luke then claims the victory here in Suzuka. Then Smithy P2, Hungry Styles in P3, Gina in P4, Corey Brennan then P5, then Dynamo Dan P6, Mr. Elite P7, Serious Mushroom in P8, Dan P9, and Jake the Slayer in P10. Dukanko then P11, Ginger Age P12, Casey P13, Umabro P14, Astrojon P15, IRS P16, Real Ashton then P17, Winnie then in P18 with fastest lap, and unfortunately Gaming Infinity and Rocket Lee pit and quit in this Grand Prix. Brilliant. Right then, we'll get the interviews hopefully underway. We'll start off with our race winner then, Luke. Luke, a fantastic result then once again then for yourself. Then you had quite a bit of a battle then with at least 6 drivers in that first stint, and then narrowed it down to 4 then narrowed it down to 4 and then down to your teammate in the last couple of laps. How did you feel then crossing the line then in P1 tonight?
Yeah, really good. I'm probably saying this too much, but look, Japan isn't my favourite track. Well, it wasn't, and I started practicing today, and it did sort of come back to me. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a hell of a race. Really have thoroughly enjoyed that one. I think I've enjoyed every race really a lot so far this season. Every race has been a lot of fun. But yeah, it was close. You know, sitting in that DRS train, you never know what's going to happen in ALR bronze, for better or for worse. So yeah, it was really good fun. Really, really enjoyed that.
Well, you say that, but I think it was probably the best race of Japan in this last few days. So fair play indeed to all the ones, and put on a fantastic show tonight. Then, but like I said, you were battling with your teammate there as well. Then towards the last couple of laps, did you? What were you thinking then with you in the battle? Then, or were you just keen on getting the win then, and not worried about who your rival was in that last couple of laps as well?
As soon as it was down to Smitty and I was like, oh no, like that. The worst person you want to race at this point is your teammate, especially when it's so close, because you know that one of you is going to come out on top, and it's always a terrible feeling. And you know, I think if it was later in the season and I was a bit more comfortable with the championship, I would have just absolutely stayed behind, because Smitty absolutely deserved that 100%. But it's so early in the season, I just want to score as many points as humanly possible, as quickly as possible. So I did feel terrible, and I was sitting in the party, and as I overtook him into turn 1, I was just like, I'm sorry, Smitty. I know you couldn't hear me, but I just like, I'm so sorry, because I genuinely felt really bad for taking that from him, because he did really, really well.
Right, then in that case, Smithy, just get a quick report in and we'll switch the places around then.
Sounds good to me.
Well, then indeed, because obviously you've been, 2 wins, I think it is, in the first 3 rounds of the season there. And of course, you were leading the championship then heading into this race anyway, but you are, of course, cementing your position at the top of the championship then. Is that the aspirations then to get, like you said, get yourself as far away as possible in the first few rounds then, and just take it easy then for the next half of the season after that?
Yes, I'll obviously never take it easy, because you know there were some really rapid drivers. Rocket Lee was absolutely rapid until he spun. I think it was Dynamo Dan was in there until he spun. So you know, it may be easy to rest on my laurels now, because I've got 2 wins out of 3. This is my 3rd podium on the bounce this season. But I mean, these guys are rapid. In qualifying, I qualified P5. So you know, these guys are rapid. I just have to maximise every opportunity, which is why I went for it tonight. So the goal is the championship, absolutely, but we're round 3 of 16, so it's a goal. Who knows what's going to happen, but absolutely trying to push for it. And I think with Smitty coming second tonight, I think we can safely say that the push for the constructors is definitely on as well.
Brilliant stuff indeed, and congratulations then to Luke. Then he's a race winner here in Japan as well. Then, so brilliant stuff then for Luke then, and looking to keep the charge going on in the championship as well. Smithy Almighty in P2 then. We talked about the battle then from Luke's point of view. What were you thinking then from your point of view then in the I say the second kick hour, but it was literally a 10th or so of the second possible line. But what was your thoughts then in the final few laps there as well? Then in the battle then with your teammate.
Just mirroring what Luke said, really. That was very, very entertaining. By all means, pass me, mate. You deserve that win just as much as I did, so don't apologise when you go past, mate. We kept it clean, and that's the main thing. We didn't knock each other off, or we didn't cost each other any massive points today, and that's what it's all about. I'm here for the constructors. Free time, that's what I'm going for.
Triple crown then, and so far it's been like I said, for both Kicks Albers, it's been pretty good stuff indeed for the first 3 rounds of the season. Then, Smithy, then you've been battling them with your teammate with I think it was Rocket Lee at the beginning there as well, Hungry Styles, Dan, Dynamo Dan. Is there anybody that you were worried about then in that fight? Because you seemed like you was keeping on a few battles going then in that race, especially in the first stint as well. Then, a few changes in position then throughout that first stint.
Yeah, all of the above, really. I think like what Luke said, there's so many quick drivers in here, and even drivers that have really stepped up. I mean, it's great to see Hungry Styles on the podium. He thoroughly deserves it. He's a great racer, so to get rewarded and share a podium with him is brilliant. And like some serious, there's a lot of drivers this season to look out for. So I don't think I'm really in a position to say who's going to be the biggest threat until penultimate race maybe. So yeah, I think at the moment it's just taking it one race at a time and just dealing with your enemies, or not so much enemies, but your nemesises in the races as they come.
Well, penultimate race, and Luke's going to have it wrapped up, isn't he? But yeah, that's what I thought.
That's right. As long as the constructors is as well, I'm happy.
Yeah, exactly. Fantastic stuff. And then obviously that result then really cements Kick Sauber at the top of the standings as well. And we've got the Mystery Grand Prix next week as well, then, which could be Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, or Miami. How are you fixed for those three? Then is there a particular one you're looking forward to?
I think I'd prefer probably Jeddah out of the three, if I'm completely honest with you. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Like I say, it's going to be exciting times. It's going to be a bit of an unknown element as well, with having a load of drivers in that potentially couldn't have had as much practice as what they usually do. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see next week. I'm really looking forward to it.
I don't think Styles has joined us, unfortunately. So yeah, there we go. Then P3 tonight, then in the Haas as well. Then brilliant stuff indeed. Then from Bronze, we'll be back in action. And of course, with a Mystery Grand Prix, it could be Bahrain, it could be Saudi, it could be Miami. Then, but we'll find out on stream then as well from 7:30 p.m. Next week. Then, of course, the same then goes for gold on Sunday and for silver on Monday. Goodness me, I've got my calendar sorted as well there. Good stuff. We'll catch you then next week then for more bronze action then, but stay tuned to ALR. There's plenty more action coming up then, and we'll see you very soon.